Hello and welcome back to another edition of Come Back Stronger by Fasig Brooks. I'm Dana Brooks and I'm joined again by my law partner Jimmy Fasig. And we're going to share another comeback story with you today. This one I love because it affects so many people.
Yes.
And this man has touched so many lives, not just in our local communities, but also at the national level, having worked with President George W. Bush on a task force for how to begin projects for people who are ex-offenders. He started the Ready for Work program, and this man's name is Garland Scott. Jimmy, you and I had dinner with Garland, and I know we've had him interviewed, and we want to bring that story today. But what was your takeaway after meeting with him and sharing a meal with this man?
When I first met Garland, I was blown away. I met him because I was in Jacksonville. I just wanted to meet the people that were making a difference in the community, making friends, because we just started a business here. And so when I met him, though, and he told me his story, I was like, man, we have got to have you on the show, because his story is dynamite. And not only that, usually in this show we do 2 segments with 2 different people, but his story is so powerful, we just decided to give him the whole show.
Yeah, 100%. And he's like you said, he's got an individual story that is super powerful. But what he was able to do to turn around and help young men and women who are coming out, who find themselves in a gang environment and going toward a gang
violent gang members.
And he works with law enforcement now on trying to be the liaison between the community and law enforcement to try to bridge some of these gaps and open up some communication and kind of rethink how we handle people who have that bad experience. He's written a couple of books. We've got First Things First. He wrote that. That was Understand the Priorities of the King. His work is faith-based. He's very much informed by his religious beliefs. He and his wife are pastors also. And he's got another book, Redeeming the Time. This is about understanding God's restorative power. So we'll be hearing from him. We're going to have a lengthy interview, like you said, and we're going to hear how he does things to help people who've kind of gotten sideways. And the message, you always talk about this, there's always somebody who believes in you, but he's one of those people who said, I'm not giving up on you. Don't give up on yourself.
You would not believe this. He approaches people that are in gangs that have the most potential to be violent gang members, and he literally approaches them and tells them that there is a way out of this lifestyle. And I just met with him like last week because I'm interested in helping him expand, and he told me that 1 out of 3, basically almost 1 out of 3, 30% of the gang members that he approaches, they turn into productive citizens, productive members of society. And so he turns their entire life around, but not just their life does he turn around, but everybody in their orbit. Everybody in their orbit, their family, their friends. It's just absolutely amazing how many people he touches just by what he does.
Well, he takes an interesting approach. He starts at the top. He gets the leaders in the gangs. And he knows that if he can get them on track, look at all the people that they touch. Look at all the people that they can affect. So he's got a very smart way of approaching this. So I'm excited for you to see the interview, and we'll start with that right when we get back.
We're giving you a game plan on how you can take back control of your life to not just get back to where you were before you started, but also to come back stronger. This is a tragedy in your life, it's an accident, or it's a loss that you never expected to suffer. But every tragedy carries with it the seed of an equal opportunity. And so our job is to guide our clients to take advantage of that opportunity. And that is the most fulfilling thing that I do in my job. When I give my client that settlement check at the end of the day, if they can walk out of there feeling like they are the hero of their own story and they're proud of themselves because they did what I asked them to do, they took my guidance and they ended up with seeing that light at the end of the tunnel and actually reaching that light, that's what it's all about.
Welcome back. Now we're going to hear from our law partner, Kimmy Hogan, as she interviews Garland Scott.
Mr. Scott, please introduce yourself to us.
My name is Garland Scott. I'm originally from Brooklyn, New York, and I work for the Jacksonville Sheriff's Office, and I'm a senior pastor.
What do you do for the Jacksonville Sheriff's Office?
I am the Violent Reduction Strategy Outreach and Support Manager.
And what does that mean?
I help gang and group violence guys and people that are just struggling get out of that life and start a new life. Also through relocation, also through transferring and just help them get back on their feet and live successful lives.
I'm going to ask you a lot about that later, but
Okay.
I want to start by hearing your story from the beginning of your life. Tell us about it. Yep.
From the beginning of my life. Well, from the beginning of my life, my mother raised 3 boys in New York. She is from the South, and she moved to the Bronx first and she met my father, and my father was not a good guy. My father was a heroin user, okay, and an abuser to my mother. Matter of fact, that's how I got here. He beat her up when she was 5 months pregnant, and I came out as a preemie. So it was a struggle from the beginning, but I'm here, 6 feet, 200 and something pounds. I got a good job when I was a kid, 11 years old, as a stock boy in Brooklyn, New York, and I decided I want to be a pharmacist. So back then, you can go to trade schools for auto mechanic or pharmacy, and I went for drug clerk, pharmacy clerk, at a school in Brooklyn where it was predominantly Italians and Sicilians. Went to a party December 16th with my brother. We paid $5 for the party in the 70s. One of my best friends, okay, met me in the parking lot, and he said, the Boogie Boys are here tonight.
Who are the Boogie Boys?
Well, he was doing some racial things, the Boogie Boys, saying we know how to dance and pop lock.
Oh,
and he had
okay.
about 50 guys with him, and my brother said, run. It was me, him, and another friend, 3 of us. I had just got casts off of my legs because I had some problems with my legs growing up where I couldn't run. So I fell on my face. Next thing I felt was a combat boot to my mouth, and I began to get beat with bats. I felt the teeth come out of my mouth. It was cold. So I felt the warmth come down my face and drip on my clothes. My brother grabbed me and picked me up and said, run. I ran into a tree. We ran all night. We ran into some police officers. We asked them to help us. They said, y'all know you shouldn't be in this neighborhood at night. After that, my brother dragged me somewhere else. He said, swing and fight. We ran to the subway because the subway station was 2 miles from the school. We had to take a train to the bus to the school. We got on the subway station. They followed us down there. My brother took a paper towel and wrapped my face up with a bomber jacket and said, let's run. So we ran through the subway. I woke up in an orthodontist chair in the hospital. They were putting my teeth back in my mouth, and my mother was there, which was a police officer, and said that we're going to find out who did this. So after all of that, through court cases, the only one that we were able to apprehend was my friend. That's the only one I seen because my eyes was too swollen.
Yeah.
He got 25 to life for the murder of the man that was killed that night besides me. After that, I got put into my local school.
How did that change you, being involved in that riot?
I didn't want to get beat up anymore.
Yeah.
I remember that night, and it was, matter of fact, till I was like 40-something years old, I couldn't go to that neighborhood. It was a fear that was locked in me. It was like that was a no trespass zone because it was so horrendous at that time when you remember the date and remember the cold and remember everything. So I just didn't want to get beat up anymore.
So you had told me before we sat down about something that happened at your school later on. Tell me about that.
Yeah, when I got put into the new school, it was horrible. When I got there, I mean, they were bringing a girl out that was raped in the pool downstairs. And I'm like, well, I'm here. What are you going to do? And I mind my business. I didn't say anything to anybody. And 2 Haitian guys, because in that area of Brooklyn, it was Jamaican, Barbadians. There's a lot of people from the islands. And they got into an argument. And I just didn't like violence anymore. And I said, you guys shouldn't be fighting. He said, mind your business. And he punched me in my mouth. After you've been hit with a bat several times and pipes and stabbed up, a punch doesn't bother you. So I hit him, I hit his friend, they tried to grab me, I took a tray, and I just tried to wail everybody out.
Yeah. And then someone from a gang saw what happened at your school, is
Yeah.
that right?
Yeah, they said, that guy's crazy. He doesn't give a 4-letter word. And one day in the gym, because I started working out, I was big, I was 200 pounds as a freshman. And they said, let's get him. And they jumped me in, because they were jumping me in. But I was able to fight him off. I'm not Superman, but they said stop when they got me. And they said, we like him. And next thing you know, I'm in the hall. I'm down with the posse. I'm Big Buck who don't give a.
And posses in New York, that's like a gang in other areas.
It's like a gang or group of violence. We're very careful of saying gang because gangs have changed so much to hybrid gangs now that they're not really organized. Gangs are organized. They have shot callers and head hierarchy, but today they don't have that. So back then it was just a posse or group.
Okay. So the posse or group that you were involved with, how many years were you with them?
From 12 till about 23, 24.
So from your 12 years old till 23 or 24. Now, how did you get out of that life?
First, let me tell you what I did.
Yeah. Tell us.
My job was if you didn't pay your crack money to break your fingers, break your arm, to hurt you. That's it. And I enjoyed it.
Yeah.
It was pretty fun to me because I'm not going to let you do anything to me. And then it's always somebody bigger, somebody stronger, somebody faster on the draw came into the community and they didn't want me around anymore.
Yeah.
So I had to find a way to get out.
We're going to take a quick break, and when we come back, I'm going to want to hear more about what life was like in the group and then also what you've been doing since you got out of it.
Okay.
Wow, thank you, Kimmy. You know, that really kind of hit me when he said, you know, once he got into this hierarchy, it kind of sounds like a junior level mafia, I guess, the way they work, and they have enforcers, and you know, there's a business aspect to it, an economy that they have to protect. He said he enjoyed it, the enforcement stuff, and so, you know, wow, whenever you get welcomed into a place and they build you up and they make you feel like a very big person and they give you a position of status within the organization, it's really easy to be seduced by that.
A position of power.
Yeah. So,
But then what I am excited about is hearing the end of the story.
oh yeah.
Because he turned it all around. He was able to turn it all around and take the lessons that he learned from that and make that the fuel or the fire that fuels his passion for what he does today.
Yeah.
So that's the exciting part.
Yeah, and who better to do that than someone who is
Somebody
fully
who's been
immersed in
through
the
it.
culture?
Yeah, he's been right through it.
Yeah, so when we come back, we'll have the second part of Kimmy's interview with Garland Scott. When you come into my firm, you see a lot of faces that look like yours. You see a lot of people that had the same problem before they got to work. You know, a lot of people who left kids with mismatched shoes and a lunch bag, you screaming, you know, just because you had an appointment you had to make. You know, we get you. We get you.
You have to go to a lawyer that will understand your story as a woman. Because women have different stories than men do, and that's just a fact of life. And if you're a woman that's been injured, either through a slip and fall or a trip and fall in an auto accident, you have to go to a lawyer that's going to understand what your daily existence was like before, what it's like now, what the injury means to your entire family, and what you need to do to come back and be where you were before, and even come back and be stronger than where you were before. They just need to have the courage to pick up the phone, because we are going to take the burden of this accident or you being hurt off of your shoulders. We're going to put it on our shoulders, so you don't have to worry about it. Exactly. You can worry about everything else in your life, but not this accident. We're going to worry about that for you.
And welcome back. We're going to hear now the second part of Kimmy Hogan's interview with Garland Scott.
So during the years that you were a part of this group, this posse, what were you doing as a member of the posse, of the group?
My job was to muscle the enforcer. Usually in a group, it's a clocker, a spotter, a watcher. It's different parts you play. And mine was to go beat you up, collect. You know, they didn't really want anything, and I just hurt people. That's what I did, hurt. That's where I got the ugly name, Big Buck, who didn't give a. Because they said, get him, he'll do it. And I would do it.
And that was for about 11 years.
Yeah.
At about 22, 23, you left the group or the posse. Why'd you leave?
Well, I didn't leave. I ran because they were trying to kill me. It switched. I heard rumors that they were going to kill me. And when I found out about it, I found out about the program where you can relocate. And I relocated. And when I came, I was just running. You know, a lot of times people leaving a group don't mean they're necessarily quitting the group.
Yeah.
It's an old adage, you can take a person out the city, but the city's still in the person. I still had all that stuff on my hard drive. Mm-hmm. You know, when people use the word delivered, you get delivered from something, the only thing that changes is your address.
Yeah.
You're not changing anything. So I just ran to get away.
Was there a point when your hardware changed?
Yes.
Tell us about that.
After about 3 years here, working with the post office, I landed a phenomenal job driving tractor trailers. and I went to go back and visit my mother. So I changed up, I grew a beard, and shaved my head, and I went in the neighborhood, the old neighborhood, and I ran into one of my little runners, the guys that used to hang with me, and I taught him a lot of stuff.
One of the guys that was in the group with you.
But he was a little guy when he came in, and he used to look up to me. You know, I was a life coach for the wrong reasons.
Yeah.
I was a mentor for the wrong reasons. And I noticed he had a gun like me. He had his watching the streets like me. And he told me he had a little baby. And I couldn't tell him that I'm not doing it anymore.
Yeah.
You know, I'm changing. I was just afraid. I didn't want to be called soft or anything. And I didn't want to lose my juice because I'm still big buck.
Yeah.
So 3 hours went by, and we laughing and joking, and I got in my car to drive back to Florida. And driving, I kept thinking about him. The trip was short because I kept thinking about him. I ran home. There was no cell phones. Got in the house, called my brother up and said, hey, you know where Junior? Said, oh, man, you didn't hear as soon as you left, man. They rolled up on him. They bust 7 caps in him. He's dead, man. He wouldn't tell where you was at. Something just shattered inside of me. I cried. I never cried before. I get beat up, so I don't cry. I cried, and it just snapped, and all of a sudden, everybody became Junior. I was not going to let anybody get hurt on my watch anymore, and I came out the box like fire after that.
So that was a pivotal moment in your
Yes.
life. Turned everything around.
It is still fresh as today.
Yeah.
And it happened so many years ago. I can remember the moment, the time. It was like blood was on my hands, like it was me, and you know, it was gone. So what am I going to do? And I said, well, nobody's going to get past me anymore, and that's what happened.
And that's what you're doing now.
Yes.
You are finding the juniors out there, and you're helping them get out of the violent
Yes.
situations they're
Yes.
in.
Yes.
Tell me about that.
Well, it went crazy because I started a church. I put on a church, wanted crackheads, prostitutes, liars, thieves, whoremongers, liars, pedophiles, anybody chunked out, wicked out, come to Christ.
Come to Christ.
I said that those that are well don't need a physician. Those that are sick. And it blew up. Everybody from everywhere came. I got what I put on that sign.
Yeah.
So it made the news. So people are seeing it on the news, and the next thing you know, a mega pastor, thousands of members asked me to come on board and be a part. I said, no, I'm not helping you. I'm helping my people. You
Yeah.
know what I mean? He said, no, I want to help you. I said, what does this white guy know about inner city stuff? And he told me, I don't, but you do, and I want to help you. So I joined with him, and when I joined with him, he taught me for 5 years. I didn't preach, I didn't teach, and everything he taught me, governing and how to manage stuff, and just integrity, time management, things I never heard of before. So after I did all of that, there was a big meeting with a group of pastors, and I used to help a pastor, where President George W. Bush wanted to meet the pastors for the Faith-Based Initiative, and I was on the invite list. What for?
Cool.
So I went. And when I went, I got selected to talk to the House about the Faith-Based Initiative. And then after that, he asked, could I stay on and help out? Because he likes what I have to say. So I stayed on for 5 years.
That was President George W. Bush.
George W. Bush.
Oh, amazing.
So I worked with him and Elaine Chao and Secretary Ashkoff. And meanwhile, I'm volunteering for the sheriff's office for 3 sheriffs. 3 sheriffs I volunteered. So finally, this new sheriff came in and said, hey, I heard about you, and could you come on board and help? We're doing this new initiative. And I said, sure. So that's why I ended up with the sheriff's office.
And that's what you're doing here today is, in addition to your church, helping folks that want to get out
Yes.
of violent groups.
Yeah. And I believe, this is not an arrogant statement. It's confidence now. I have 3 decades with it. I'm the one that knows how to do it. My nickname in the streets is Switzerland. If you get to me, you get help.
Yes.
I know if you're faking. I know if you're for real. In order for me to help you, I have 2 rules, and I don't violate my rules. The first rule is don't you ever lie to me. If you lie to me, I'm gone. There's thousands that want help. And number 2, don't trust me because I don't trust you. It's a process. We got to build it. We got to put money in the bank. And once you do that, I have like 150 outreach and support groups around the city that can get you help within 24 hours. I can get you a job. I can get you trade school. I can get you out of the city. I can relocate you because I have partners in most of the Metroplex that we work together, create a pipeline to help people. So I work with the district attorney's office and work with the mayor's office. So we try to clean up the violence in Jacksonville. I think we've processed over 520-something group or gang involvement people since I've been on board. We go to their house. We go knock on their door, something called custom notifications, to let you know we know who you are, but we're not here to arrest you.
We're here to help. We're here to help.
Yep.
We're here to help you get out of this situation, and we can help you come back stronger.
That's right. Come back much stronger.
Yeah.
Yep.
Well, you just have an amazing story, and you've done so much good, and we're so thankful that you came to share it here with us today.
Well, thank you for having me. Hopefully somebody would hear and say, hey, I want to come back. I want to do it. You can.
Yep.
You can.
Absolutely. Well, thank you.
Thank you.
Wow, what an encouraging story. You know, a lot of people don't know this about me, but before I was a personal injury attorney, I was a social worker, a clinical social worker. And the reason I chose that, and it felt so good to me versus maybe a clinical psychologist or some of these other paths you can take to become a therapist and help people, was a social worker goes to the person in their environment. You know, you don't pluck them out of that environment for an hour in your nice office and talk to them about their issues. You go to them, you see where they live, you see the important people in their lives, you meet their teachers, you meet their pastors, you meet their aunts, you meet their neighbors, grandparents. And without being able to really do that, I don't know that you can provide much help. And he sure does seem to know that at a very core level, you know. And sometimes it takes removing those people from that environment because they're just never going to be able to change behaviors when they're being reinforced that much. So anyway, we're going to have one more commercial break, and we'll be back to finish up our talk about Garland Scott. Their life has been changed, and this is for real. And so many times it could be a very intimate part of a man's life. You know, something that they don't even want anyone to know they're experiencing, much less do they want to share how it's affecting them. It even feels worse when you don't stand up for yourself. Because you know you can't stand up for yourself among these lawyers and these insurance companies because it's not your area. You don't know. So a lot of times, instead of seeking help, especially maybe from a woman, they just take it, and then that eats on you. You know, people don't lead with their weaknesses, but that doesn't mean they don't exist, and it doesn't mean they don't deserve fair compensation for them whenever those weaknesses and those injuries are caused by somebody else just not paying attention and being careless. That is not your responsibility, it is the careless person's responsibility. And making that person honor their word and honor their commitment to you, that's not weakness at all. That is strength. That is doing the right thing for yourself and for your family, so you can walk with a straight back and your kids can look up at you and say, that's my daddy, he takes care of us. Welcome back. Jimmy, we just saw a couple of segments on Garland Scott and all the amazing things he's done based on his very unique, really troubling experience as a gang member, as a very young child. I mean, honestly, 12 years of his life starting at 12, that's an extraordinary amount of time, and he was dealing with a lot of adult issues in a very small little microcosm of society, and he was able to take that and help other people with his experience. But what were you said there's a lot to unpack in
There's
this,
a
so
lot
what do
to
you think
unpack
about
from that story. Well, one of the big things that I like about Garland's story is that there was that pivotal moment, and almost every time you hear about somebody that came back, there's an element of compassion that comes out, an element of kindness, an element of love. In this case, it was the compassion that he had for his friend that he had lost. And that was so painful for him that he said, never again, not only never again will it happen to me, but I'm going to make sure that I go out there and make sure it doesn't happen to other people.
Yeah, no more juniors on my watch.
No more juniors on my watch. That is, and what you'll see in people that every single comeback story, there comes a moment.
Yeah.
There's a moment where the person that is going to come back makes a decision. And it's a lot of people, some of the motivational speakers call it the never again moment, where they say, never again is this going to happen on my watch. Never again am I going to endure the abuse, like, for example, Renata that we had on the show recently. She said, never again am I going to endure the abuse from my trafficker. She was a victim of human trafficking. Never again, I remember when I said, I was in prison, and I said, never again am I going to feel powerless. I'm going to do everything that I can to take back my power so that never again I have to feel like I am powerless, that I'm weak, that I'm the smallest guy in the class. Yeah,
and you know what? It doesn't matter what it is. Sometimes it's kind of an inner development that you just reach your personal, threshold of you're just not going beyond this. I'm not going to experience another day of that. I've had some of those issues in my life, in personal relationships, but also in feelings of not having power. You know, it's just like, this is the last time I'm going to tolerate being diminished or that sort of thing. And so I made a commitment that I'm going to reach and get my power, but I'm also going to try to promote that in other women and girls.
Well, that's one thing I love about you, Dana, is that you are the master of setting parameters.
I'm a boundary setter, man.
You are not going to let someone take away your power. You're not going to let somebody bully you.
No.
And I think that's pretty awesome. I've seen it in action so many times. It is really, really cool. Yeah, and I feel like the people that are around you, it gives them power to set their own parameters, to take their own power. I think that's awesome.
Yeah, when you find yourself in a leadership position, I don't care if it's in the parent-teacher organization, your homeowners association, your company that you're building, or just your group of, it could be your book club. I don't care. If you're in an organization and you see yourself in a position of power and people look to you for guidance, I just ask that you do what Jimmy does in his life every day, what Garland Scott does in his life every day, and make something of that. Do something with that unique gift that you've been given. It's almost like an imperative to me, and I think that's how Garland felt after hearing about his friend Junior. I mean, Junior didn't give him up. Junior paid the ultimate price.
Right,
he left a child. And worse probably for Garland was that's one more person he probably could have reached and brought out of that environment, relocated, rehabilitated, whatever he needed. But the ultimate price was paid and he wasn't able to reach him. But he tries to reach so many other people. You do that every day.
So some of the things that we're trying to do to help people claim their power is we've got a group on Facebook. We've got, first of all, the Facing Brooks Come Back Stronger group, which is all about helping people claim their power. And I've written this book called When Life Knocks You Down, Come Back Stronger. It's available on Amazon. And this is about how I claimed my power, how I was able to go from being a prisoner to a partner in a law firm in 5 years. So
thank you for that, Jimmy, and thanks for joining us today. I hope you'll watch us and join us on facingbrooks.com and our Facing Book Facebook page. Thank you. I like that people who don't have the money to pay for lawyers, they can come to a contingency fee lawyer, someone like us who only gets paid when we recover for them, and they can go toe-to-toe with giants.
You are actually just coming to us, not paying us anything, and if we're successful in getting you money, we get paid. And the more money we get for you, the more money we get. So our interests are totally aligned.
And it's a wonderful system because otherwise, how many people can afford to go hire a lawyer by the hour just so they can have their day in court? That would be almost no one. That would mean justice is only available in America to rich people otherwise. But the contingency fee agreement allows everybody to go in on equal footing. It levels the playing field. But to me, it's saying we're equal. Okay, just because you have all those resources behind you doesn't mean I have to take whatever you give me. I've got a lawyer that I can afford who can stand up to you on the same playing field, equal ground in front of a judge, and I will get treated the same way those big corporations will be treated.